After Friday night's Campaign Kickoff address, in which the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA's, naked body scanners and aggressive touching techniques were called into question, an excellent concern was raised by an attendee. Without such practices from the TSA, how would we remain safe in airplanes? To answer this, we must first examine the event which brought about the TSA in the first place, namely 9/11. In the wake of 9/11, there was a mad dash by many in our government to step in and ensure that the government, would never allow something like this to happen again. One such action was to require that impenetrable cabin doors be installed in all commercial airliners and remain locked for the duration of all flights. This was, in fact, a legitimate function of the U.S. government, since by doing so it ensured that airliners were no longer susceptible to hijacking. It consequently ensured that the United States was no longer susceptible to a terrorist attack from within its own borders in the form of airliners as missiles. With that, though, we reach the end of the federal government's legitimate, that is constitutional, authority over the private sector. Private airlines should be allowed to choose for themselves what level of security and screening they will provide. Customers, then, are given the choice. Do I want to fly on the airline that uses only a standard metal detector or X-ray machine, or do I want to endure naked body scanners and touching for a perceived added level of safety? Yes, a terrorist would be more likely to try to board the airline with less intrusive screening procedures. This is the risk that should be left to the customer. However, the customer also takes the exact same risk when boarding a train or a bus or attending an event or doing any number of things that require equal or less security. We as American citizens have kept airplanes in their own isolated category of perceived danger, mistakenly. After the cabin doors were added, airplanes returned to the same level of risk as any other method of transportation. We are forced to draw a distinction. It is not the federal government's duty to preemptively protect each citizen from every possible danger. Rather, it is the federal government's purview to secure the national defense and to then protect the individual's right to choose how and to what extent he will either subject himself to risk or protect himself from it. Additionally, through the TSA, the federal government, and therefore we the people, assumes moral, legal, and fiscal accountability in place of private industry. Note that since the federal government subsidizes airplane security, it does so at a cost to the taxpayer of millions and millions of dollars per year. And if and when there are lawsuits, the taxpayer is on the hook. In the economic sense, it's just another case of corporate welfare to the airlines. And let's not kid ourselves. The TSA has not been a shining example of excellence in doing its job. Just recently, a man accidentally brought his handgun through security and onto an airplane, twice, and was only discovered when it fell out of his bag and onto the airplane floor. A perfect example of your tax dollars at work. There's a theory called tragedy of the commons. It says, in short, that no man or business or government takes care of another's property as well as his or its own. Who do you expect to take better care of the airlines, the government or the airlines? Fortunately, we here in Northwest Florida are not forced to be subjected to the naked body scanners and aggressive touching techniques, as our airports use more conventional security methods. But I personally have had these experiences in other airports across the U.S., and they are demoralizing. For that matter, why are these techniques so essential at some airports but not at others? If they were really critical for our safety, wouldn't they be in place everywhere? The TSA may give the illusion of security, but unfortunately it's just an illusion. So, cui bono? Who benefits? The airline industry? The security industry, that is Michael Chertoff, the former DHS secretary, and his company Rapiscan, that's actually what the company is named, and of course the government, or the state. Who loses? The American citizen, the taxpayer, and liberty. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety, and they will end up with neither as well. When deciding on this issue, ask yourself this. Do we as individuals have the responsibility to decide for ourselves, as long as we harm no one else of course, what level of safety versus freedom we each desire? Or does the federal government have the authority to protect us from ourselves, at the expense of becoming a nanny state? Let the Constitution be your guide.